Greetings everyone, Melderon here, on another Classic WoW.live guide. This time we're going to be going over downranking in Classic WoW, as well as introducing a new downranking tool provided by Osgar, a friend and member of the Classic WoW community. As with all of my guides, a link will be available in the description below if you want to read the slides at your own pace, and it will be available along with a written guide provided by Osgar, helping to explain the tool itself on ClassicWoW.live. Also, timestamps will be available in a pinned comment below if you want to navigate this guide at your own pace, or just want to jump right to the tool that Osgar has built for you. Alright, let's get started. First, we should start by defining what downranking actually is. It is the intentional use of lower ranks of spells in order to increase mana efficiency. Yes, that's right. In Classic WoW, sometimes it's prudent to use lower ranks or weaker versions of the spell that you have. Now, this can be done by any class that has mana, healers or DPS, but it's much more commonly done by healers. And it can be done for most spells in the game and by most classes, with the exception of warriors, rogues, and druids in either bear form or cat form, as new ranks have the same base resource cost. Since rage and energy are capped at 100 usually, unless talents are involved, these spells just gain additional damage or effect, so you can't downrank these. On the right is an example of Healing Touch. You'll see I have two different ranks, and you'll notice that rank 5 is a lower mana cost, but also a lower range of the heal, compared to rank 6, which is a higher mana cost and a higher potential range of effect. You might be thinking, why would I ever use a lower rank? Well, let's explain that. The reasons you may want to downrank in Classic WoW are actually vast, but we can think about it with a very simple example. In this example, you're in a dungeon and your tank has approximately 65% of his health left, and the last mob in a pack you're killing is about to die. He only needs about 140 HP to reach full health. Which rank of Healing Wave, if you're a shaman, will you use to top him or her off? Rank 3 or rank 4? If you look at the ranges of both spells, you'll see that rank 3 will definitely cap him off, and the mana cost of that is 80 mana compared to 155. So in this circumstance, you would want to use the cheaper spell so you don't overheal the target. This is a very practical example of why downranking is important, especially since you won't have Lesser Healing Wave yet at this level. However, there are many other reasons, and we'll get into those when we talk about spell power. What you may be thinking right now is, so Melderon, you're telling me I should always use the cheapest spell. No, that's not the case at all. There's two metrics that we really should take into account when we're thinking about downranking. DpME, or its very closely related metric DpME, and HPS, which is related to a metric that I'm sure many of you have heard of, DPS. So what are these two metrics and how do we use them? HPME or DpME stand for healing or damage per mana efficiency. And the equation is very simple. You take the average effect of the spell you want to investigate and you divide by its mana cost. So for example, let's take Healing Wave rank 5. It has a range of 376 to 440 health that it can restore at a cost of 200 mana. So if you take the average, 376 plus 440 divided by 2, which is 408, and divide that by 200 mana, you get about 2.04 healing per mana. So another way of thinking about that is you get 2.04 healing for every mana spent on that spell, on average. Now, for HPS and DPS, that is healing or damage per second, or how much damage you're putting out per second spent casting that spell. This is also a very simple equation, just like HPME or DpME. You need the average effect, and you divide it by the cast time or the duration of the spell. So a good example is Greater Heal rank 1. It has a range of 899 to 1013 health restored. If you take the average, which is 956, and divide by the cast time, which is 3 seconds, you get approximately 319 healing per second. These two metrics are going to be vastly important when you consider which rank you're going to use in which encounter or situation. And knowing the weights of each of these, or in other words, how important they are to you, will dictate which ranks of healing or damage spells you're going to put out. However, since DPSers want to maximize their DPS, HPME is not very important to them. But for healers, which this guide is primarily tailored to, want to think about both of these metrics when thinking about downranking. But finally, the situation also matters. So we should use the previous example to explain this. If you look at the two Healing Wave ranks on the right, Healing Wave rank 4 has the higher DpME and the higher HPS. So why would I intentionally use a lower rank of spell if rank 4 is more powerful and more mana efficient? To answer that simply is because the situation matters. HPME and HPS are important guidelines, but you should always be prepared for any situation and have multiple ranks of a heal in your bars. In this example, our tank Zugzug doesn't need rank 4 to cap, he only needs rank 3, so save some mana and use a lower rank. Even though rank 4 provides more bang for the buck with a higher HPME and a higher HPS, Healing Wave rank 3 still costs less. And furthermore, casting Healing Wave rank 4 in this situation will overheal the target, and overhealing is always a waste of mana. So how do DpME, HpME, and HPS and DPS scale with rank? In reality, each rank of spell you learn is both more mana efficient than the last, and provides more total effect. In the two graphs below, yeah, you wouldn't get through a Defcamp Melderon TV guide unless you didn't see a few graphs, right? You will see the relationship of both HpME and HPS for Healing Wave as a function of spell rank. On the graph to the left, you'll see that HpME scales linearly with each new rank you get, while HPS scales non-linearly, but you can definitely see the relationship that a new rank gets more powerful, especially with the higher ranks. So this makes things pretty easy. If you want to maximize, you always use the highest rank. But remember, this is at 0 spell power, and spell power significantly alters these relationships, especially for HpME and DpME. Before we get into how those relationships are affected, we need to talk about spell power and spell coefficients. Here you see two different pieces of gear, the Bloodfire Talons and the Abyssal Melee Guards of Sorcery. In the green text in the Bloodfire Talons, you'll see increases damage and healing by magical spells and effects by up to 18. In the Abyssal Melee Guards, in the white text below Intellect, you'll see plus 18 damage and healing spells. Now just focus on the spell power and not the other stats or the armor type and difference. Which one of these two pieces of gear provides the most spell power? Now many of you may already know this answer, but some of you may not, so I'll explain this quickly. Some of you may say that since Bloodfire Talons has that up to 18 in it, and the Abyssal Melee Guards of Sorcery do not, that these Lay Guards provide more spell power since there's no up to there. But in reality, the tooltips have very poor wording concerning spell power. They actually provide the same amount of spell power. In theory, the spell power you receive from gear, all of it goes to your spells and effects. However, spells and effects interact with that spell power through something we call a spell coefficient. It's important to realize that each type of spell, what I mean by type is heal over time, damage over time, a normal cast, AoE spells, they all have different rules that dictate how much of your bonus spell power is applied to them. We can use two examples here. One is a normal cast spell, like Healing Wave rank 5. The formula to determine the coefficient is the cast time divided by the reference cast time, which is 3.5, and that gives you the coefficient. Now, since Healing Wave rank 5 is a 3-second cast time, we divide 3 by 3.5 and receive the coefficient of 85.7%. So only 85.7% goes to Healing Wave rank 5. And if you have 100 spell power, the average Healing Wave rank 5 before spell power is 408, and since it has a 0.857 or 85.7% coefficient, we multiply 100 by 85.7, and we add that to the original average of 408 to get a new average of 493.7. So if you have 100 spell power, that's how much healing, on average, Healing Wave rank 5 will do. However, over time spells have a very different formula. It's the duration of the spell divided by 15, which is the reference, and that gives you the coefficient. An example here is Renew rank 6, which has a 15-second duration, so 15 divided by 15 is 1. So you receive 100% of your bonus spell power for Renew rank 6. However, that 100% is equally attributed over the duration of that spell. So if you have 54 spell power, Renew rank 6 heals for normally 400 over 15 seconds. It ticks 5 times, so that's 80 health per tick. But if you have 54 spell power, all of that is applied to the duration itself, which boosts the overall healing of Renew rank 6 to 454 over 15 seconds at a rate of 91 health per tick. It's important to realize that these coefficients originally were drafted and put up on Alakazam way back in vanilla days, and these are confirmed on the Classic WoW beta. And this is how these things actually work. Now, these are just two types of examples. There are many others that we can go over, but I won't go over them here. Now let's briefly go over some quirky examples that don't really follow the rules. Frostbolt does direct damage, but also has an additional slow effect. Because it has that additional effect, it receives a slight penalty of the coefficient of 5%. So if we apply the same thing we learned about Healing Wave, we figure out that it should receive 85.7% of your spell power, considering it's also a 3-second spell. But we multiply by 0.95 for that extra 5% reduction, so our new total, our new coefficient, is 81.4%. Now there are also hybrid spells. A good example is Regrowth, which has a direct portion and a overtime portion. This is a very complicated formula. I've calculated it here for you to look at. Spend some time to realize that the direct and the healing overtime portion don't have the same coefficient. They benefit from spell power differently. Keep that in mind when you're thinking about which spell to use for what situation. I've also included two text boxes here which explain how instant casts and AoE spells work. Instant casts are considered 1.5 second casts for spell coefficient calculations, so you would take 1.5 divided by 3.5 to get the coefficient for a instant cast spell. AoE spells usually follow the formula of the cast time divided by 3.5 times 0.95, all divided by 3. However, many AoE spells have their own unique formulas which are currently unknown to us. Another very important thing we have to consider when downranking is that there's a pre-level 20 penalty. Most spells you learn before level 20 receive significant penalties to their coefficients. A good example is Healing Wave rank 2. The equation to figure this penalty out and to calculate the new coefficient is the number 20 minus the level you learned the spell times 0.0375. That gives you the penalty. Now, if you multiply the normal coefficient, which you get from the cast time divided by 3.5, by that penalty, you get the actual reduction. So you subtract the normal coefficient by the reduction to get the pre-level 20 coefficient. Let's go through the example. Healing Wave rank 2 is trained at level 6 and has a 2-second cast time. So 2 seconds out of 3.5, we should normally get 57.1% of our spell power attributed to Healing Wave rank 2. If we plug in all the numbers for that formula, 20 minus 6 times 0.0375, we get a reduction of 0.525. You multiply the theoretical coefficient by that 0.525 to get a reduction of 0.3. You subtract 0.3 from the theoretical coefficient to get 27.1%. As you can see, that's a reduction of 30%. That's very significant. So think about this when you downrank spells that you learned before you hit level 20. Also, it's important to think that the closer you train a pre-level 20 spell to level 20, the less the penalty will be. Finally, let's go over how talents can affect spell coefficients. In Classic WoW, there are two ways talents can affect them, either before or after bonus spell power is applied. For healing spells, generally, spells are affected before bonus spell power is applied. We can use Healing Touch rank 5 as an example here. Normally, it heals for 433 on average. However, with 5 ranks of Gift of Nature, a talent in the Restoration tree, the base average is increased by 10%. If we multiply 433 by 0.10, we get 43.3. We add that to the original average for 476.3 healing. A Healing Touch rank 5 is a post-level 20 spell and has a 3.5 second cast, so therefore it gets 100% of your bonus spell power. So if we add 100 spell power to our average with Gift of Nature, the average with the spell power is now 576.3. Notice that the coefficient is unchanged, however the average is increased. There are spells in Classic WoW that the spell coefficients are affected by talents. A good example is Elemental Weapons and Shaman. This is an offensive talent that adds 5% bonus to the spell coefficient each rank. Now, it doesn't tell you in the tooltip that it does that, but I've tested this on the beta and it does. So the normal Flame Tongue and Frostbrand coefficient is 10%. 10% times 0.05 is 0.5, so we're adding 0.5 to the spell coefficient each rank. If you only have one rank of elemental weapons, it'll be a 10.5% coefficient, 2 ranks will be 11%, and 3 will be 11.5%. In this case, a talent will affect the spell coefficient, but for healing spells, generally that is not the case. Now, if we put that all together and we calculate the effect of spell power on H or DpME, despite these pre-level 20 penalties, the lower ranks benefit more from bonus spell power than higher ranks because the percent difference is greater. In other words, spell power has a larger effect on lower rank spells because their range of healing is so small. A good example is Healing Wave rank 3, which is a pre-level 20 spell in Shaman. The average heal is 142. If you add 500 spell power, the new average heal with the coefficient and the penalty is 392. That's a percent increase of 176%. However, Healing Wave rank 10, which is the highest rank of Healing Wave that you can get in Classic WoW, the average heal is 1,735. If you add that 500 spell power and calculate the coefficient, the new average heal for Healing Wave rank 10 is 2,164. That's only a percent increase of 25%. Also, you'll see that at 500 spell power, the rank 3 HPME is 4.9 healing per mana, while it's only 3.5 healing per mana for rank 10. With that much spell power, rank 3 is more mana efficient. You can see in the graph at around 200 to 300 spell power, there's a lot of crisscrossing in those lines. Each of those colored lines represent a rank of Healing Wave, going from 0 spell power to 1500 spell power. And by 1500, you can see that rank 3 is the most mana efficient. If we zoom in on that area, that 200 to 400 spell power area, you can see how this relationship is affected by bonus spell power. By 210 or 212 inch spell power, rank 3 overtakes rank 10 as the spell with the highest mana efficiency. This is a very interesting relationship. That point at around 212 spell power, where rank 3 overtakes rank 10 as the most mana efficient rank, is called a breakpoint. And knowing these breakpoints for each of your spells can make you a vastly more efficient healer. In the next few slides, we're looking at the relationship of DpME with increases to your bonus spell power. At 0 spell power, it's a very linear relationship. Adding 100 spell power, you start to see this non-linear relationship start to form. By 200 spell power, it's clear to see that rank 3 is rising up rather quickly in the DpME. Rank 10, however, at this point is still the most mana efficient. Or by 300 spell power, the relationship is drastically changed, with rank 3 at the highest point with the highest DpME, and rank 10 falling below, even ranks like rank 4 and rank 5. Now, this doesn't mean that you only cast rank 3. You should have multiple ranks on your bars, but we will get into that in a few slides. So what about the effect of spell power on H or DPS? Well, unlike H or DpME, the highest ranks will always maintain the highest H or DPS, simply because they just do more and they have a larger effect. So for example, with Healing Rave rank 3 again, the average heal is 142. If we add 500 spell power, the new average heal with the coefficient and penalty is 329, and that's a HPS, if we divide by the cast time, of 156.8 healing per second. With rank 10, we do the similar calculations and we get the new average of 2,164. Divide by the 3-second cast time, and we get a HPS of 721.3 healing per second. That's obviously higher than 156.8. You can see in the graph to the right, each of those colored lines represents a rank, just like the last slot, and as you can see, rank 10 maintains its high HPS regardless of the spell power that you have. This continual linear relationship of DPS or HPS is why DPSers will always use top rank spells, so they can maximize their DPS per unit time. So if you want to maximize how much healing you can put out in a unit time, HPS or DPS is very important. But remember, the highest ranks cost the most mana to cast. So really, it's important if you're a healer to take both metrics into account. Now, before we get into how to weight DpME versus HPS, we should talk about downranking before level 60. You will likely not get enough spell power to effectively downrank before level 60 or at high levels, so your highest rank will likely have the highest DpME or DpME as well as the highest HPS or DPS. However, as stated previously, it is important to keep different ranks of spells available in case of certain circumstances, as lower ranks always cost less. Now, circumstance number 1, which is our basic introduction example we used, a player doesn't require the highest rank of a heal to cap their health. In that circumstance, cast a lower rank spell. It will cost less mana. Circumstance 2 is you go out of mana during an encounter and you need to provide just a little bit of health to either survive the encounter or to ensure your tank won't die. As you regen mana, per the 5-second rule, the lower ranks of spells will become available sooner to you. So, if you can imagine a tank's about to die, one more hit's going to kill him, and boom, your lowest rank healing wave pops up on your bar. Cast that right away so that you can survive the encounter. And finally, circumstance 3. This goes for healers and DPS. In this circumstance, you only need to provide the additional effect that a spell provides. Frost Shock slows, Frostbolt slows, and Frost Nova roots. They do that just as well regardless of the rank you use, so use the lowest rank, use rank 1, and save mana for your damaging spells. Now, there are many other examples than the ones I've showed here, so if your spell provides an additional effect, consider using rank 1 if you want to save mana. Okay, thanks for sticking around this long. I provided you a bunch of information, but we still have a problem. If you're a healer, which metric is more important, DpME or HPS? And it really depends on your role, the encounter, your playstyle, the raid group you're in, your talents, and more. As stated previously, for DPS classes, including mages and warlocks, they usually want to optimize for highest potential damage per second and use the highest ranks. And they can help mitigate the cost of spells with abilities like Life Tap and Evocation, while also relying on consumables and buffs. However, those hybrid DPS classes, Elemental Shaman and Boomkins, I'm looking at you, usually you'll have to downrank to last the entirety of fights, considering you don't have abilities like mages and warlocks. And Boomkins, I hope you aren't using your innervates on yourself. So you're going to need to make clever uses of consumables, buffs, and available ranks. Now, for your healers, you usually are going to hold DpME and HPS at equal weight or variations depending on the encounter and your playstyle. Always have multiple ranks on your bars of your heals at your disposal for any circumstance. So how do we effectively put this all together? There's a lot to consider. Class, talents, your style, your DpME to HPS preference, spells, content phase, and stats like crit and spirit if you're a priest or a paladin. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a metric and a tool to help you choose your rank and be more informed while taking both the weights of DpME and HPS into account. Well, wait no longer. Osgar, myself, and Defcamp are proud to introduce HES and the Downranking calculator. Now, since many players may want to see the effects of both DpME and HPS on their spells, we've created a metric that takes both into consideration, the Healing Efficiency Score, or HES. Simply, what it is it takes DpME and the natural log of HPS and multiplies them together in a 1-to-1 ratio. The reason we take the natural log of HPS is because the range is much larger, so if you can condense the range using a log transformation, the numbers are much smaller and are much easier to understand and digest. Now, this is a 1-to-1 ratio, but some of you may want to alter the HES depending on what stat you are more fond of or are weighing heavily on. So because of that, we've modified the HES calculation to raise each factor, DpME or the natural log of HPS, to some exponent X or Y. Now, this is weighted upon importance. So increases in X will weigh DpME higher, while increases in Y will weigh HPS higher. The tool that Osgar has developed will take spell power, talents, stats, phase, and your preferences of DpME and HPS into account. You can start by inserting the spell power, choosing what phase you're in if you're post AQ, because if you are post AQ, some more ranks of spells will be available to you. Pick your class, add any potential stats that could modify your healing, choose talents that increase your healing potential, and then pick the spell you'd like to analyze. If you then click on spell details, you'll be greeted with a pop-up window that first shows you a table showing you all the different metrics and which ranks are highest or lowest, breakpoints showing you at which spell power which rank is the most mana efficient using HES, a slider that will let you choose the importance of DpME or HPS. If you bring the slider all the way to the left, DpME will be the most important. Alternatively, if you bring the slider all the way to the right, HPS will be all that's considered in the metric. Let's go back into the middle, and you'll notice that it generates graphs for each of the three metrics, HES, DpME, and HPS. If you hover over the data points on the graph, it'll tell you the spread of the ranks for that spell power that you're currently looking at, and that's the same for all three of these metrics. This is an excellent tool to let you compare DpME, HPS, and our new metric HES live with interactive graphs. This tool took a lot of time and collaboration and math to make, and we're really proud of it, so we hope that it helps the community in determining which ranks of spell are the most mana efficient when you're healing in dungeon and raid settings. Now, to briefly discuss HES, let's revisit the graph I showed you of healing wave DpME as a function of spell power for all available ranks. If you remember, around 212 spell power, rank 3 took over rank 10, becoming the most mana efficient, and this is just looking at DpME. However, if we take into account HPS at a 1-to-1 ratio, in other words, looking at HES, you can see that it shifts over to the right. At 440-ish spell power, rank 3 takes over rank 10, and the overall relationship is altered when you take into account HPS in addition to DpME. We hope this new metric provides a more well-rounded source of information for healers to take into consideration when they're choosing which rank to use in raids. Now, since HES shows that rank 3 is clearly the best when it comes to mana efficiency and spell power ratio at 440-ish spell power, that doesn't mean you're only going to use rank 3. As stated previously, there are many reasons why you want to leave other ranks on your bars, and let's go over that now. Breakpoints are not everything. Even though we provide different metrics to determine which spells are the most efficient, always plan on many contingencies. I usually keep 3 to 4 ranks of each of my spells available for many different circumstances and situations. As a healer, you should think about the amount and frequency of the damage coming out from the raid encounter or the boss you're fighting, which players are more at risk to take damage. Take into consideration their location in the raid, their class, and their role. Think about incoming mechanics. If you know a certain damage spike is about to come out, you may have to use a larger rank to compensate for that increased damage. Your current mana pool. If you're noticing you're getting down and there's no consumables or cooldowns coming up, start thinking about being more mana efficient and use lower ranks. Also think about mana increasing cooldowns and consumables. Can you rely on an Innervate or a Mana Tide totem to come out soon? If you can, you may want to put some more leeway and use higher rank spells. And finally, always think about your emergency cooldowns. For Shaman and Druids, your Nature Swiftness plus your max rank heal. You don't want to waste your Nature Swiftness on a lower rank. If you're a Priest, think about your Inner Focus ability, which reduces the mana cost of your next spell by 100%. Of course, you want to use that on a high rank spell. And the same thing with Divine Favor and Illumination and Paladins. If you're going to use Divine Favor, you have a 100% chance of critting on that next spell. And if you have Illumination, that spell becomes free because you crit on it and get that mana back. So again, never never use these cooldowns and waste them on lower ranked spells, unless you have no other option. Being a healer requires you to really think on your toes, and just having this knowledge with DpME and HPS is just part of it. You need to have that gut feeling really of when to use certain ranks over others, and that comes with practice. However, ladies and gentlemen, we're not done. There's still something else this tool can do for us. Knowing your toolkit as a healer is very, very important. All healing classes have multiple heals for different situations, and they're designed that way. If we take Shaman for an example, which is a very simplistic class, there's only 3 different heals. Lesser Healing Wave, and Chain Heal. Now, Lesser Healing Wave and Healing Wave are both single target heals. Chain Heal is very hard to compare because it's a multi-target heal. However, knowing when to use Lesser Healing Wave or knowing when to use Healing Wave is very important. Therefore, we should be able to compare DpME, HPS, and HES for these different spells, knowing in which situation and given what amount of time, which spell is the best to use. Lesser Healing Wave has only a 1.5 second cast, therefore it's more of an emergency type heal because you can put out healing in a shorter time window. However, it is less mana efficient when compared to comparable ranks of Healing Wave. So knowing how to compare between your different heals is very important, and our tool can do that as well. Just as I showed you before in a previous slide, if you click spell details, you can look at the graphs. However, there is a compare button that Osgар has also introduced that lets you compare between spells. So for example, if we want to see the comparison between Lesser Healing Wave rank 6 and Healing Wave rank 10, we can choose Lesser Healing Wave rank 6 on the left and then choose Healing Wave rank 10 on the right. And this takes into account any talents, spell power, or stats that you put in the previous step. For this comparison, we're going to use 500 spell power. As you can see on the radar plot, DpME is less for Lesser Healing Wave compared to Healing Wave, but the HPS is higher. You can put out more healing in a unit time with Lesser Healing Wave than you can with Healing Wave. And finally, when we take both metrics into account, HES, of course, Healing Wave is higher in a 1-to-1 ratio because it considers DpME equal to HPS. It's just important to know which spell you can get the most bang for your buck in a specific unit of time, and this tool can help you compare not only spells in your toolkit within your class, but you can even compare spells across classes with this tool. So what's in store for the future for the tool? Well, in the future, we plan to add tools for DPS classes. Yes, even though downranking is not as common in DPS classes, hybrid DPS classes could benefit from these types of tools. Also, we want to continue to improve the user interface and make it easier to use. And finally, we're working on integrating it into Classic WoW.live as a premier tool on the website. So definitely check that website out if you haven't been there yet. We are constantly doing upgrades to the site and providing new tools and resources for the Classic WoW community. As we work to improve the tool, please provide us feedback on what we are doing well, what we can improve upon, or if you have any questions. Osgар can be reached via Reddit and GitHub. Links to those will be in the description below, and if you're on Google Slides, you can click the links. And I, myself, can be reached by email, melderon.gaming@gmail.com, on Discord at Melderon #1287, and through the Classic WoW.live Discord. Links to all those will be in the description below, and a link to both the tool on its static URL and the tool via Classic WoW.live will all be in the description below. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. It was a lot of work to put this together, but we're really proud of what we produced, and we hope it can help the Classic WoW community at large, especially healers. If you like this type of content, please leave a like below. If you enjoyed the type of videos we make and want to see more guides and other types of content like DefTalk, which is our podcast, which is listed on Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes, consider subscribing because we have a lot more stuff coming on Defcamp Melderon TV. Also, Defcamp streams on Twitch and YouTube, and you can follow us on Discord and Twitter. Links to all those things will be in the description below. Also, as I've stated previously, Classic WoW.live is a resource for many guides and community-based content, tools, and forums for the Classic WoW community. If you haven't checked out Classic WoW.live, head on over and let us know what you think. Finally, I'd like to thank my patrons and the stream team who regularly support us and make videos like this possible and continue to build our community. Thank you all so much for your contributions, and thank you for keeping us on our toes and helping us strive to make better content. Well, everyone, thank you very much. Keep on keybinding and grinding, and I hope to see you all in Classic Azeroth. Greetings, adventurers. Melderon here. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you'd like to support some official Defcamp Melderon t-shirts and hoodies, head on over to Brandon Media's Defcamp Melderon TV merchandise website. The link is in the description below.